This past March 26 on the weekly Church Safety Guys broadcast on their Facebook page, they had a special guest, Mark Fritz, operations pastor and head of security at a large church in Arizona. And the conversation came around about who may be the best church security volunteers and so on, and how to recruit, how to retain people for church safety security teams. And somebody wrote in that there's tends to be a belief that former or current law enforcement make the best safety security team members. I've also seen myself that there seems to be a blind, open arms approach to anyone who is former or current military who asks to be part of a security team, especially if the military member mentions that they've been in combat. Now, first, I am here to address that line of thinking and that belief. First of all, let me say I'm a retired police officer after 20 years, and I am also a former Army infantry grunt, 7 years in the Army as an infantry grunt, went through Desert Shield, Desert Storm, and I'm here to caution you, do not just blindly have an open arms policy to anyone who approaches and asks to be part of your safety security team just because they are current or former law enforcement or current or former military. Especially, it ought to be a red flag if they are former military and all they talk about, or that they talk about very often, is combat duty. What makes you think that is not some type of symptom or example of some type of PTSD that they're dealing with? What makes you so sure they are still level-headed and ministry-minded? Case in point, in 2016, not long after I retired, one of the young new officers my department had hired, him and some other officers found and apprehended a shoplifting suspect. While the suspect was on his belly getting handcuffed, this young officer ran up and jammed the barrel of his rifle into this man's temple. Other officers on scene quickly swatted away the barrel, but unfortunately the damage was done, complaints made, the video released, and this young officer, who I really don't doubt would have been a phenomenal officer, lost his job. But what happened was, in a time of stress, even this little bit of stress, he reacted to conditioning and muscle memory. And is that what we potentially want to happen in our church environment? No, I don't think so. Another case in point. September 2021, a guy named Brian Riley in Florida, no relationship to me. 4 years in the military, honorably discharged also, was working as a private security contractor, went off the deep end. Kicked down the door of a house, strangers, no connection to him, murdered 4 adults in there, gravely injured an 11-year-old girl. When the investigators were talking to his girlfriend, she said, yeah, I know he struggled with PTSD and some depression, but he's never been violent. Folks, people are never violent until they are, and then it gets bad. Well, she goes on to tell the investigators that, yeah, last Sunday he even worked church security with no problem. They don't mention the church in Orlando where this guy worked at, but he worked church security just a few days before he went off the deep end. All I'm saying is, don't just blindly accept people into your church safety security roster until you've shown some type of due regard and due diligence to do some type of background check or to observe them. Another former military member who went off the deep end, Timothy McVeigh, Oklahoma City bomber. Anyway, I'm just telling you, take a slow, deep breath. Don't just blindly accept people. And look around you in the media. You've seen police officers do some really crazy things and end up in the news in a bad way. What makes you think that some of the officers you know aren't like that, with the type of temperament, attitude, and behavior? And one of the quickest things you can do to check up on anyone, background investigation 101, check their social media. What are they saying about things? How do they portray themselves? What's their attitude? What's their behavior? Is that who you want representing you? Is that who you want on the stand representing you and your church if something goes off the rails? I'm just cautioning you. Love the military, love law enforcement. But some people are struggling through some things. Just be careful. I'll see you in the next video.